You Are the Salt, a podcast for Christian female leaders and entrepreneurs. So today I have with me Mrs. Leah Chilengwe, also known by many as Auntie Leah. And she's an author, she's a life coach, she's a business coach. And recently she came out with her new book called Lids, Cracking Your Glass Ceiling. Thank you so much for coming on, Auntie Leah.
It's my pleasure.
How are you? How are you doing?
I am doing great. I've had a bit of a morning. I broke my phone. Like, what did we do before phone? You guys probably don't remember. I remember going to a phone booth to make a call. So today, I'm like lost.
I remember doing that when I was 16, but we're not gonna go off track.
We're not gonna go there.
But yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on. And like, I've mentioned you quite a few times on the podcast, so people should know who you are by now.
I'm gonna
dropped you in different times.
I'll binge listen today.
That's good. Thank you. But yeah, so our topic for today is friendships, and we obviously all of us need friendships, but most importantly, it's good for us to have healthy friendships. And I feel like as we get older, how we manage friendships is increasingly more challenging and sometimes very demanding. But also very rewarding as well. And the topic of friendship is something that's becoming a lot more common, especially when you hear statements like you are the sum of the 5 friends that you have. And also people talking about cutting people off out of their life if they're toxic and that kind of thing. So I think it's a really important topic, but I want us to start from a place of what does a healthy friendship look like? And then go from there.
I am very basic, I think. Because of the privilege of years and experience that I've had, I'm very basic when I talk about friendship. And my question always is, as a litmus test, when I am with you, do I deposit something that helps you grow? And do you do the same thing, vice versa? You have friends, when you finish putting the phone down, you feel drained. You do. We all do. And then what we do is we excuse that and we think, oh, they're having a bad day. Oh, they're just like that. But when you sit back and you do a proper forensic, you realize that that's how your friendship is. So what is healthy friendships? It's people who deposit something in you, whether it's challenging you to be better, but you can walk away from that conversation or that interaction and feel better about yourself. Or you can walk away from that interaction and feel, I was given permission to be my authentic self with this person, you know?
Yeah.
So sometimes I think we talk about friendship as, do they make me feel good? Do they compliment my shoes? I don't have friends like that. Honestly, if you listen to some of my friends, we are just so silly. But when time comes for important stuff, I know who's going to be there for me. And I know who's going to kick my backside. Believe you me, there are people who kick my backside and who tell me as it is. But because I've given them that permission and they've given me that permission, it's iron sharpening iron. So sometimes I think I hear you guys talk a lot about friendship. I need to chop them. They're toxic. The question is, are you the toxic friend?
Are you the toxic friend?
That is a good question. Outside, have we done that introspection on what type of friend you are?
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
So you spend your life having a spiritual scissors, chopping people out, when actually, in fact, the problem is you. So before we even talk about true friendship, my question is, what type of friend are you?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a loyal friend. If you're my friend, I will put everything down and I'll be there for you. I'm not very good at communication, and my true friends know that, so they won't make me feel bad about that. But they know when they blow the whistle and they need me, it doesn't matter what's happening, I am reordering my life for them. So the only reason I'm saying that is I'm trying to give people an example where I don't even bat an eyelid when it comes to describing the sort of friends I am. I'm a loyal friend. You don't need to tell me, don't tell anybody. I know when I finish talking to you, it just ends here. Yeah. I will fight for you in public, even when I know you're wrong, and then I'll kick your backside. Do you see what I mean? So I can describe myself as what type of friend I am. And because I can do that, and it's also come with test of time, people telling you that's what you're sort of, so don't just give yourself a title. Let people tell you that's the sort of friend that you are, and then do that introspection. Then we can start asking what type of friends. Who I'm chopping somebody off in 2020, chop yourself.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Um, Obviously you've got a few years onto me, but I think for me, friendship is something that's changing and something that's flexible. I think friends should be, like you said, you should be able to be yourself around them. You should be able to bring your whole self and not feel judged. They should be able to understand the space or where you are in life without making you feel bad about it. And yeah, someone that you can face all facets of life. You can have fun with them, you can have a laugh with them, you can have serious times with them, you can tell them and share your deepest, darkest secrets. I think those are real friendships, and anything outside of that is more of like an acquaintance to me. But I like your point about being a good friend. So I was going to ask this a bit later, but how do you think, so what would you say on that point that you made, like looking at yourself? How would you tell someone to be introspective and start looking within themselves to become a better friend?
I think in my latest book I talk about having blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
We all have those blind spots, and it's being humble enough in order for you to see yourself potentially as other people see you. So as you grow older, or as you become very successful, it's very easy to say, I'm a business coach. I wear my power suits Monday to Friday. You can't tell me anything, you know? And I think the key thing there is humility. Humility to be able to listen to people about yourself without being defensive. That's how we learn who we are, you know? It all comes back to identity and knowing yourself, but surrounding yourself with people who will speak to you in truth and in love. And that doesn't need to be friends. It could be your mom, it could be your brothers, it could be people in your inner circles who you begin to hear a pattern about what they're saying about you. And believe you me, if you're behaving like that in the house, if you're behaving like that with your family, you're behaving like that with your friends. If you want your own way and you think I'm spoiled in the house and you think you're going to leave that at the door before you go and meet your friendships, you're lying to yourself. You are as selfish in the family as you are outside in your friendships. And I think it's humility that starts us from looking at ourselves so that I can hear the whole truth. So I went through something. If I went through something traumatic, and I went and saw this pastor woman, and I went there with an open heart. I said, tell me, based on what you know, this is my side of the story. I am willing for you to tell me I was wrong. Because what we do as people is we find people to endorse our position. We don't grow.
Yeah.
So something happens. This girl, she did this, she cut the line, and then she removed me from Instagram. Then you tell that story to somebody else, and you're looking for people to endorse. And if those people don't endorse your position, what you do is you say they're on the other person's side. So I'm going to chop them too. You don't grow that way. You have to be able to take what you want, find people who can speak truth into situations that help you grow. I honestly it was the most traumatic experience for me. I went for therapy for over a year, my kids, everybody. But I was willing in that moment to be like, tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Like, tell me if I'm wrong. And I was honestly prepared for her to say, you were wrong.
Yeah.
You could have done this, you could have done that, you could have done that, you could have done that. Because I don't want that to happen to me again. That's the only way you grow. And that's the only way you see yourselves. Coming back to your question, how do you see? Surround yourself with people who tell you the truth, and you yourself, don't be so prickly. Don't be prickly. And because you guys, it's a bit, every time somebody says somebody, oh, they're on the other side, I called Louis, and Louis said, oh, they were talking. Then if you dare post a picture with the person that they're falling out with, done. You cannot ever speak.
I'm gonna have to note some of these things down. That's really
True. I'm giving you, it's true, and it's things that I've done in my younger years,
Yeah.
So that for me is be true with yourself. Shine the spotlight on you before you try and start chopping people. I see all these quotes you're putting on Twitter. This year,
Not me personally, guys, but millennials and Gen Z though.
2020 like with your heels. I'm like, hey, you're taking yourself with you. You'll find yourself in 2021.
Oh man. But no, that's such a good point. I guess we're gonna kind of take it a bit to a different type of topic. One thing, so what I did was I asked loads of people different questions because because obviously I've got my own questions about friendship, but I also wanted to know what other people thought about friendship and the kind of questions that they have. And one of them is kind of about, you know, the fact that we meet different people at different stages in our lives. And along those stages, you know, we tend to change. So other times we change a little, other times we change a lot. So how can we, as the changed person, start relating to our friends when we feel like we're so different to them now?
Did I say this somewhere? I feel like friendship is such a big thing. I don't remember where I was saying this, but what I was saying was I gave an example of a plane and I said, I live in the UK now. I'm originally from Zambia. So if I'm going to Lusaka, there's so many different ways in which I get there. Sometimes I get in at Manchester, sometimes I get in at London. So let's say I get in at Manchester, the route from Manchester will take me to Dubai. Dubai, I change and I go to Lusaka. And what I was saying was, there are people in the plane that I travel with from Manchester to Dubai. Not everybody will come with me from Dubai to Lusaka. You'll find that some of the baggage drops in Dubai, some of the people drop in Dubai. The person you're sitting with might not be the same person that you travel on with. Sometimes even the plane changes.
Yeah.
Right? So what you are saying is, as individuals, you've evolved. You can evolve, and everybody evolves at a certain pace. Don't be afraid to walk away from relationships when you know it has come to the end. How do you know it's come to the end? If you're not on the same page. You are like, I want to be professional, she still wants to be dancing in the club. That's a big, like, I'm not judging the clubber, by the way. You know what I mean?
But it's just funny, yeah.
I'm just saying, if you are,
I feel like at some age, come on, you need to, yeah.
Well, you know, people grow up at different stages. You know, I've seen people age in the club. I'm like, what are you doing? Are you not tired? At 10 o'clock, I'm ready to sleep. But you know, people grow.
Yeah.
So I think what we do wrong is we hang on to people who we know our season is over for too long. And then by the time you've tolerated that sort of difference in behavior, it is difficult to pull away, right? It's difficult to pull away. So then it becomes more, how do I say, the tear becomes more painful for both sides. Then it becomes a drama. But you also have to be aware that it is your responsibility to end the relationship well when it goes. It's not your responsibility how to take it.
But then in saying that, so do you feel like, you know how you said let it go? Are you saying kind of like, let it go kind of in a way that's natural, like it just kind of flows in a way and it just ends?
Yeah.
Or do you think you need to sit down and be like,
do you want to? No, I don't think. You could never say to people. I think we're going different ways now. I think we need to part and you go your way. Because what you're essentially saying to them is that you're on a better path than they are. You've matured and evolved. Nobody's going to take that. You have to learn, and this is where you ask yourself whether that friendship was toxic or not. Because if you're even afraid to say, no, I don't want to meet up with you, that already, what were you doing with this person? You've already tolerated some sort of behavior.
Someone like that, yeah.
Because I've got my friend, I've known her since I was 4, and I'm really blessed. Not everybody's like that. Just because you knew them when you were young, there's also a friend I knew when I was maybe 15. And you know, when we parted company, when I was 40, I always knew she was dysfunctional. Always knew. And then everybody said, oh, Leah, she's in your life for a reason. And I'm like, yeah, she's in my life for a reason. And then when I was 40,
let her go.
No, but then when I was 40, I was like, yes, she's in my life to torment me. And because I'd left it for so long, I just went cold turkey and chopped her off everything and hid. It shouldn't be that way. Do you know what I mean? I can speak to my friend who I've known since I was 4 and say, you know what, I just need some time out. And she won't take it personal. She won't take it personal.
I love that.
She'll be like, I'm going to check.
That maturity.
You go do you, Leah, but I'm going to check on you because I want to make sure you're okay. And she's not just the only one. So the very fact that we have to think of the strategy on how to let people go is already telling me that person shouldn't have been in your life in the first place. You know, like how do I walk away from you? Do I sit you down? I personally don't think sitting down is the right thing. I think it makes you feel like you're better than them. And nobody's ever going to receive that. I think you test it by turning down coffee dates.
It's also very like formalized. So like if I sat down with someone and they ended a friendship with me, in my head I'll be like, this is completely over. There's no coming back. But the thing is, if it naturally ends, that person might be in your life later on in life when you're on the same page. You never know. And it just opens, it's just
It's a
natural and
maturity.
nice.
It's a maturity on how to separate. And it could be that that person is not right for you then. You know,
Mm,
I mean, you know, in our culture, people will be like, if you're married, don't hang around with anybody who's not married. I've had a friend who was single and she got married at 50 and I refused to let her go because I loved her. But everybody would be like, oh, be careful, single people, don't play with single people when you're married. I was like, no,
yeah.
I like her, she prays with me, she supports me, like she supports me more than you married people. And literally this
Mm,
girl, this woman's been in my life, and now she turned 50 last year and she got married to the
mm,
most loveliest man, right?
mm.
I would have now been saying, if I chopped her when I was younger, saying, can you now be friends with me now? And if I were her, I'd be like, oh no, you know.
Exactly. That's great. Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, that we say that. I think we put a lot of limits on ourselves when it comes to friendships and relationships, to be honest. But in that same vein, so you know how we're saying how, you know, you could be at different levels or different stages with your friends in your life. I feel like a lot of the time, especially like for the people that are listening, a lot of the times they've just finished university or they've been in a structured way of life essentially, and now they're going to be in the real world, and there'll be, you know, some of them will be getting jobs, some of them will be getting like top jobs, other people will be just literally trying to find their way through life. And sometimes that can breed jealousy because people are living life at different, or going about life at different paces. So I guess my question is, how do people deal with jealousy, whether you're the one feeling it or whether you're the one on the receiving end from your friends?
I think that's why I said initially, when the
Mm-hmm.
topic of friendship comes a lot of times, even in my coaching sessions, it's
Yeah.
directed at the other person.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, let's start
Yeah.
friendship with you. So
Yeah.
if you are at a place where you're now changing seasons, you're now at a crossroads, you're going different paths. By the way, it is very shallow to let go of people because you're in a top job and they haven't found a job yet, because you just don't
Yeah.
know where the life takes you. Do you know what I mean? The question we should ask ourselves at that crossroad is, who am I? What are my
Mm,
values? What are my values beyond the job that I hold, the car that I drive or might potentially drive, the money that comes into my bank, the house that I live in or I want to buy? Who am I? And what are my values as a human being?
mm-hmm.
Then you look around and you say, who is around that speaks, that talks, that has a vision, that has a passion like me, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're almost on the same. You don't need to be exact. Me and my friend are like chalk and cheese. Like I am like out there. She's so quiet. So we're not looking for people who are like us. We're
Mm,
looking for people who complement us. And
yeah.
it could be that you are this top barrister now, and the friend that complements you is struggling to find a job and she's doing care work.
Mm,
You know what I mean? You could still
yeah.
be. I was a care worker years ago when my friend was working in Hovis, top job,
Mm,
still my friend.
yeah.
Now I'm running my own business, and so now the tables are sort of turned, but
Mm-hmm.
still my friend, because it was not about the job that she held or the job that I had. It was not about the money or the cars, but it was about the values that we had. And I think that when we start looking for people, or we begin to evaluate the people in our lives who have our values, and if they have your values, I always say those that matter, those that care don't matter, and those that matter don't care. Do you know what I mean? The
Mm,
ones who are in
yeah.
your life will look at you. You won't be perfect. Your values are the same. They'll say, "Oh, that's Leah," but you
Mm,
also have to know who you are, because you are what you attract. So when I hear a lot of people going, she's like this, she's jealous, you are who you are.
yeah. Yeah.
You
But
are
then,
your family.
okay, so on that note, say somebody say you're in a top job and you're you're not looking at your friend like they're lower than you or anything like that, but they are starting to breed jealousy because they feel like they're not where you are. How do you, as the person receiving it, deal with it? And then
I,
how would the person who is jealous, how should they look at that situation differently?
but it all comes back to, and I keep harping on about it, your personal
Mm,
responsibility. I think in this situation, if the jealousy is being directed at you, step away. You don't need that kind of negativity. You know what I mean? The only way this person will feel less jealous is if you became like them, or
Yeah.
they became like you. You don't have the responsibility to lift them up. You don't know what their journey is about. You don't know the pace at which they're running. You can only do you. The only question I would ask you is, how are you carrying yourself as this top dog? You know, are you making your friend feel, you know? I knew my friend, if she was asking me to go for dinner, she'd be like, Leah, I'll pay. It's my shout, don't worry. Or are you asking people going, well, I don't go to McDonald's anymore. I just go to these top restaurants, but your friend hasn't got the money.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. So
it's like you're creating a separation anyway before.
anyway, yeah, you're separation. And that's why I keep harping on the responsibility lies with us in order to look at how we are behaving in any friendship. So if the jealousy is coming to you and you are being the best person that you can, the most humble person, trying to bring your friend along, and she's still coming across that way, then walk. Because it's very easy for those at the top going, well, she's jealous about me, I'm going to go. But did you create that feeling for your friend? You made the atmosphere. You made the atmosphere so conducive for her to feel less than herself and look at you and think, first it starts with envy, then jealousy, then just plain bitterness towards you, you know? Did you create that? Because if you love your friend, your responsibility is to make sure your friend is comfortable. You will not take her to a place where you know that her money don't match.
Yeah.
Don't match the menu. Do you know what I mean? So it's if, to me, I think that we, in both situations, we have the responsibility. And to you, if you're not doing well and you're jealous, I'm telling you now, it's not going to end well. It's not. It's not.
It never ends well.
Learn to celebrate people. I'll give you an example of something that I did when I was down. I went to visit a friend, and her house was amazing. It's the house I wanted. You know, when you draw the house, and I hadn't bought that house. Like, and when I got there, she was like, "Oh, do you want to take a tour?" Just from the grounds, I didn't even want to look at the house because I knew, I knew it was the house that I wanted. You know, and you can feel that bile in your spirit. She, for me, when I look back now, she was enjoying it. Maybe she was enjoying a house. Maybe she was enjoying a house. I don't know. So she takes me around, and after a while, I remember going into a downstairs toilet, and I said, Lord, help me to be happy for her. Help me to be genuinely happy for her. And I faked it until it became real. I was like, by the time I left, I genuinely was happy she had it. Fast forward 2 years, 3 years, I buy a house that's even better. In the time I was there, I didn't know I could buy it. The house is even better than my dreams, better than her dreams. And this is what I'm trying to teach, to say it starts from us. The desire to be better starts from us. I could have sat there and concentrated on, oh, she's trying to show us a house. Why is she giving us the tour? Why is this, that, and the other? But it started from me saying, I need to be better, and I need to celebrate the fact that she's doing well. And by the end of that visit, I was genuinely, honestly, very happy for her. And I was saying to you that fast forward 3 years, I got a house that was better than the one I'd seen, better than my dreams. And then God begins to show you the truth. The house wasn't hers. The furniture was borrowed, you know? So I'm not saying that that's what happened. It could be that it was really her house, but because I was really genuinely happy for her, it didn't really matter to me. But sometimes the enemy puts an illusion in your face and you get sucked into it. And for me, when she lost her house, repossessed the stuff that was in her house, it was like a showroom. It was amazing, right? Yeah. I had compassion because, you know what? I had knelt in her downstairs toilet and genuinely been happy for her. So
I love that. Yeah.
So if you are the one who's feeling jealous, you need to kind of deal with yourself, you know? In this scenario I'm giving you, yes, there was a little bit of showing off from her. What maybe I thought it was showing off, but maybe she was excited. Right. You know what I mean? It's very easy to call it showing off. You don't know what's going on in somebody's life. But I had to check me. Because whatever I was feeling was ugly inside, you know? And so it took a while, and here I am. So because of that, I always check that in my relationships.
I like that. And I like the fact that you keep spinning it to the person being accountable for what they're doing, because I guess the only person that we can really change is ourselves. And if we're in terrible friendships, it could be that, like you said, we're attracting these friendships, and we can attract a better circle by knowing ourselves.
By changing yourself.
Yeah.
The minute you are your true, authentic, godly, loving girl,
Mm.
you will attract authentic, loving, truly. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So there must be, none of us are perfect on this earth. There's always some residue of stuff that we're carrying that attracts people who are like us, you know? My mother said, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are.
Okay, say you've got like your old friends. So obviously, you know, as you get older, you start making friends in different aspects of life, university, school, work. Say you have like your older friends, or just generally people that you used to know before that are still in your life and they're very high maintenance. What advice would you give to that person? But you don't want to cut the friendship off. You just feel like you're now very busy. You've got all of these things going on. And they're like, how come you don't call me back? How come you don't, you don't spend time with me? Because you mentioned earlier that you have friends who they understand, like they don't need to call you all the time. You guys don't need to speak all the time. Like, how did you get to that level of friendship?
So I was saying that it's quite important for you to understand that you will not get everything you need from one person. They're not God, you know? They'll not make you feel good. They'll not make you, so I have friends who I know if I am really feeling low and I need prayer for, I know which friend to go for, and she's there. There are friends who I've known for a long time who I'm struggling with money. I'll never ask them for money because they're tight, but I still love them. Do you see what I mean? So what I'm trying to say in inverted commas, there are people who, if I'm feeling low, I know we're just going to joke and laugh and talk nonsense. I'll call them. So I'm not trying to say that you will have perfect people all around, but there will be enough when you sit with them to know that you don't feel less than when you are with them.
Yeah.
I mean, so when I'm talking about, make sure that they don't make you feel this way, or you live your authenticity, is also about the fact that, my friend is tight and she'll never give me money. That doesn't make them bad people. They still love you, but everybody's got a flaw or a struggle. Her struggle is money. The other one is not that prayerful. Do you see what I mean? So you have to look at the people's personalities in your world, and then ask yourself if you're authentic with them, and then live with their flaws, because you have flaws too, and people are still living with you. So I think that the danger, I suppose, with 2020 especially, is for us to be looking for perfect friends, because they are not perfect friends, because they're not perfect people.
True. What about all of the people that are trying to be the best versions of themselves?
And the operative word is best.
Yeah.
Version of themselves. Not the epitome of best. The best version of you. It can be falling short of the universal version of friendships. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You can only be the best you, but the universal epitome of friendships, you're probably falling short. So you can only be your best self, and if you are your best self, be with people who accept you, because you're trying to be the best person that you can. So I'm not going to say I'm going to chop you when I'm like, Louie's working on herself. Louie will own her stuff if she's made a mistake, Louie always tries to pray if she's feeling a little bit jealous. Louie's compassionate. Louie tries to be compassionate. That's all we could ask for our friends. Are they trying to be the best version of who they are, as we are too?
So on that note, so obviously you wrote a book called Lids as like the main title. Maybe you can explain what a lid is, and then maybe we can speak around what type of friendships can be lids to us.
So I wrote the book Lids because my ministry or the anointing that I know God's given me is to talk about identity and purpose. So I rarely talk about other people and what they're doing, because for me, I'm not really anointed for that. It's about you. What are you doing to fulfill what God's called you on this earth? Right? And in order for you to do that, you need to look around and ask yourselves, what are the things that are stopping you from progressing? Those are the things, whether it's your thoughts, whether it's the environment, whether it's your friendships, whether it's your relationships, your career, your ministry. What are the things in those areas that are stopping you from becoming what you believe God called you to be in those spheres? Those are the things that I'm calling lids. But when people were reading my book initially, they read it with, let's see who the lids are. Because as human beings, we look externally. First ever chapter, I'm talking about your thoughts and imaginations. You are the first lid you will ever encounter. Bring it to relationships. And I think we've kind of done it upside down. You were saying, Auntie, I like the fact that you keep bringing it to the individual. Why? Because you are the first lid you encounter in your friendships. You will be the common denominator you take into your next friendship. And you have to be able to look at yourself honestly and ask yourself, what sort of lid relationships are you? I give an example in the book, and I said, look, or was it at the launch? I can't remember. I was saying that I was in a kindergarten friendship, and there was a grown woman in a kindergarten friendship, and I didn't even know, right? And I had this friend and a leader, a very respected leader on a big platform that people would have thought otherwise. And for me, initially, when she asked to be friends with me, I think that should have been a big flag. How can big grown women say, can you be my friend? Like, that should have told me there's something wrong here. But because you get so excited, they're well known, they're up there in the lights, you think, oh, I want to be rubbing shoulders with these leaders in the church. And then you come closer and you begin to see. So this is an example of how I would walk away from a relationship. So I got closer to this friendship, and I began to see that the friendship was more about them than it was about me. So if you were to ask them today, how many brothers or sisters does Leah have? She wouldn't know. Is Leah's mom or dad alive? She wouldn't know. You know, all the questions that would matter to me, I don't think that she would know. And then I realized very quickly, because we were friends for about 7 years, I realized very quickly that this relationship was more about them. So then, do you know what I did? I spiritualized it. I said, this is a ministry. It's not a friendship. This is what I told myself, and I told my husband, and I told my family. No, they'll be like, why are you doing this? I said, oh no, it's a ministry. Because I was afraid to walk away from it. And I'm going to be very honest, because then you think about the impact walking away from this friendship would have had on my family, on my children, on myself. Maybe internally I thought I wanted to still hobnob with the big wigs in the preaching circles. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I knew very earlier on, just being a year, not even a year, maybe months, I went away with her for a bit and she just never ate. And I thought, oh, this is really wrong. But I knew very early on that this wasn't a friendship that I wanted. We were too grown up to be acting out like we're in kindergarten. I didn't want to do this, but I held on for 6 years. The problem was not her. The problem was me.
Yeah.
Because the things that stopped me from walking away from this lid friendship were the fears that I had. Or maybe the benefits that I thought I would have at the expense of losing who I was. But what I learned is 7 years later, you cannot be who you are not called to be. So I walked away from the relationships, and the things that I was afraid of in year 1 came to pass in year 7. So I just put it off. Do you see what I mean? It never changed.
Just delayed it, yeah.
I just delayed it. But then because I delayed it, the impact was even more in year 7 because I tolerated it for 6 years. Because what that spirit says is, well, you've changed. Why? Because I didn't lift my barriers immediately. You've changed. She's become full of herself ever since she started writing these books. So now the lid friendship begins to characterize you in a certain way because you allowed this dysfunction.
Auntie Leah, you are preaching. What I hear from you as what you're saying in terms of your friendship is that you saw this early on in your friendship. And if you had nipped it in the bud then, it would have never, all of this stuff would have never happened, but you let it go. And from the things that you saw, they came to fruition in the end anyway.
So the thing that I feared, so in this relationship, when people say she was a lid, I call it, people say that's a lid friendship. I was a lid myself in this friendship because I saw it, right? And then we are fearful of confrontation at some level as human beings. So we tell ourselves it's going to be okay. And then we're also fearful of what we may lose. Was I going to lose the front row seat? Was I going to lose being mentioned on her Instagram page? Was I going to lose? I'm talking real talk here. So what we do is we hang on to a friendship that's stripping who you are because you're afraid of what you may lose and the consequences of separating from this friendship. But if you've clocked this in the beginning, whatever you fear is gonna come to pass anyway. And you leaving it makes the situation more intense,
Yeah.
painful. Because if you dealt with it in year one, maybe you've got it wrong. And so you could kind of readjust your relationship. If I dealt it with at year one, right? Maybe she would have been like, "Oh, Leah, I didn't really realize. Oh, yeah, let's just readjust our friendship."
Yeah.
Or she would have blown up, and I would have dealt with it in year one as opposed to year 7. I held on. So we're talking about lid friendships. You are the first lid in this friendship that you ever find. And I will never stop talking about this because the responsibility lies with us. People cannot be friends without our permission.
Yeah.
What's the
I think
criteria?
I think we do that a lot of times. We kind of just somehow end up in friendships. Like we're not, sometimes people aren't as intentional as they should be. And I like what you're saying, because an aspect of what you're saying is almost that you end up looking like the bad person in the end, because
Yes.
you have this whole narrative that's been going on in your head for 7 years. But you've just never been able to deal with it. And now you're probably acting out in ways that the other person doesn't understand. But
I mean,
you know.
I said to Cookie, my daughter, and I said to her, she had this friend, I said, this one's the lid. And I've been saying it for 5 years, right? I'm like, this is the lid. Oh, mommy, you don't understand. I'm like, I call it as it is, I'll call it as it is. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's the lid. So she has this friend. And then in the end, she graduates and she's like, man, I can't cope. I can't cope with always explaining myself, always trying to make her feel better about herself. So then she goes turkey on this girl. This girl goes ballistic. She's posting stuff, take your wahala, you are this. And I said, you see, it's not even her. You tolerated this for so long. For so long. You're limping in this friendship. You've got friends who you're limping with now. And if you cannot address those situations that are making you uncomfortable, you're not living authentic. It's time to start pulling away. It's time to start pulling away, and it's not because they're wrong or you are right. Maybe the time in your life is over, but you need to be able, if you cannot be your real self in a relationship, in a friendship, and it's also relationships as well. If you cannot be authentic, then you need to ask yourself, what are you doing?
Yeah. Why can't you? Yeah.
Why can't you? Why can't you? Well, it's almost, I always use a metaphorical thing of like coming home and whipping your wig off. If you can't show me what's underneath you, it's that bare. Why can't you? Life is so busy. You cannot run your purpose while trying to stroke people's egos. You can't. You've only got 2 hands. You need to grab your purpose. For as long as you've got one hand with your purpose, the other hand stroking, you're not living your full potential. So I think that what I would be saying to people is, you are the first lid. You have the responsibility to be the best friend that you were called to be. That's the first thing you need to do. And if you cannot stop in that space, I don't think you have any power or right to judge anybody's friendship.
Yeah.
If you can't look at yourself honestly and assess what type of friend you are, then you have no right to judge anybody else's friendship, because you have the power to vet who you bring into your life. Why did you ask them to come into your life in the first place? There was something about them that agreed with you. And if you think they're this, they're that, now let's start checking you. What's inside of you?
Exactly. Guys, get a hold of your own lives. Get a hold of your own selves and your own purpose.
And I want to say this, Louis. Like I feel like I'm very hard. This is very different from what your listeners will want to hear, because I think they want me to tell them. I think I was listening to somebody like, you need a lawyer in your life as a friend. You need somebody said you need a lawyer, you need a finance person. So almost like looking at your careers and saying those are the sorts of friends that you need. I think that's all life. That's a lie. God will give you the friends that you need for the purpose that you require for your journey. So stop looking for these 5 crazy friends or 6 crazy, all these numbers. God might call you to a season of being alone. Did you know that? He might call you to a season of being alone. God does that.
Yeah. On that note, what verse or what What verse do you love that talks about either friendship or purpose that we can end on? What Bible verse?
I think for me, my life story, my life verse is always, I'm like a tree planted by the riverside. I yield my fruit in season, and whatever I do will prosper. So in my friendships, I will be like a tree planted by the riverside. Yeah.
What verse is that? It sounds like Psalms. Like
Psalm 1.
someone.
I'll be like a tree planted by the riversides in my friendship. Yeah. I'll yield my fruit in season. The right friends will come in season. And whatever we do together will prosper. Why? Because we're on the same page. That's been a life verse for me, for my purpose, for my friendship, for my marriage, for everything. For me, that's been the scripture that I have. And I think that if we approach it that way, and it starts by saying, I'm like a tree planted by the river. The river, it represents the Holy Spirit. So I'm like the tree planted by the riverside. So I'm connected to God, and because I'm connected to the Holy Spirit, I then bring good friends.
Amen. Amen. I think we'll end it there. How can people get in contact with you?
I'm on Instagram, Life with Leah, Twitter. I'm on everything. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Life with Leah. I draw the line on Snapchat. DM me, go to my website, lifewithleah.co.uk, and get the book. The book is amazing. I know people will be like, we struggle to say these things when we do them, but I'm telling you, it was born out of pain. It was true lessons. It is God breathed. It will change your life.
Amen.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening in. Would love it if you could share this podcast with anybody that needs to hear it. If you'd like to connect with us, do find us on www.kingdomlifecoach.co.uk. If you've got any questions, do email us on info@kingdomlifecoaching.co.uk. So we'll catch you in the next episode, and always remember that you are the salt.